Why, hello, everybody. This is Frank Chen with Camille Baptiste. I want to welcome you to our very second podcast. So it's really great to have you guys here. Our purpose of these calls is to really bring you guys a lot of great content with what's going on with real estate around the nation, as well as what's going on in your neck of the woods. And today's topic, what we're going to be talking about, is probably something near and dear to Camille and my heart. It's one of those things that we've both invested in and have a lot of experience, and as well as, fun stories I will be sharing with you today. And that's going to be the topic of Section 8 tenants. Now, the reason why I picked this topic was about 4 years ago. I was actually looking through old YouTube videos and kind of trying to figure out what the biggest or which topic had the most amount of activity, what really got people, excited or concerned. And by all means, it was Section 8 tenants. You had your landlords you were talking about, how it was working with tenants. You had your tenants talking about their landlord experience. I really want to just clear the air and really kind of cover some of the misconceptions, as well as some of the benefits, pros, cons, and really just all around Section 8. And hopefully you guys have a better idea of whether or not this is something that you're interested in doing, or if you're just like, I'm going to stay away. So, Camille, I know you have some experience with that. Before we get into those details, how have you been?
Oh, fantastic. I am loving this fall or late summer weather that we're having here in Texas.
Absolutely.
I am actually excited to be talking to you today. I'm a little tired. I don't have on my lip gloss, but I'm going to do my best to hold it together and see if I can help you and help some of these investors out talking about Section 8.
Girl,
How about
appreciate it.
You had a big weekend.
I did. Thank you for bringing that up. By the way, if you guys have been following along, this guy here is no longer single. I got engaged about 3 days ago, last Friday, to the love of my life. It was a very beautiful engagement, and I'm really glad she said yes. Otherwise, that would have been very embarrassing for me. But it worked out, and we set the date for next year. A lot of things moving around, but thank you, Camille, for highlighting that. It was a very fun moment in my life, for sure, for sure. So with that being said, I would like to say, yes, the weather is great. I'm excited to get started with today's topic, but I think let's get started with first, probably the biggest misconception that we usually have with Section 8 is that all Section 8 tenants are bad, or they're from some kind of background. Like, what are your experiences, Camille? And maybe kind of go into how many years you've been probably renting to Section 8, and we'll start from there.
I actually have 6 Section 8 units in 3 different Section 8 housing, actually they call them public housing administrations or PHAs, but 3 different Section 8 agencies. And they're in small to medium-sized towns. And I've had if I was to rate 8 out of a 10, I've had 8. Experience 8 or a 4-star relationship with all of them. I've had nothing but good things. You always run into a tenant, 1 or 2 bad tenants, but it wasn't because they were Section 8. If that makes any sense. And so getting set up on Section 8 is quite easy. You first, of course, you own the property, get it rental ready, and then you go down to the local administration office and say, hey, I want to list my property to be Section 8. And they make you fill out a form. You have to include sometimes pictures or descriptions of your property. And you have to list what type of property it is, where it's located, and your rent. You want to do a little homework before that because you want fair market rent. They usually have already rental rates set up for the number of bedrooms that you anticipate. So let's just say for a 3-bedroom, they'll pay anywhere from $800 to $925. So you may want to make sure your rent is somewhere within that range. And then you get listed or put on the book or put online. And then sometimes you just sit back and your phone just starts ringing. Tenants start calling you because you choose to have your property listed as Section 8.
Right.
So therefore, very limited number of properties are listed as Section 8. So therefore, and you have a large waiting list, your phone just starts going off the hook. And you can cherry pick which tenant you want. You don't have to pick the first one that calls you.
Right.
So that has been my experience with Section 8. It has nothing been all good. And there's really about 5 main benefits to as a landlord for Section 8. I have rent payment guarantees. I have low turnovers and very low vacancy. And Section 8 contracts are 1 year.
Right.
I've had some tenants. How long have you had your longest tenant?
I think one of our longest tenants that we had in one of our properties was already going over 10 years. I think she's been there for like 11 or so.
Yes, I've
Yeah.
had one tenant 5, 6 years. And then when she left, maybe I had a few weeks vacancy and someone in again because I needed to do some upgrades myself, when she finally left out. You also have pre-screened tenants.
That's
So
right.
sometimes I'll ask them, hey, can you share your credit report or can you check the background check? Or sometimes they say no because it's private information. But sometimes I will ask basic questions that they would answer for me. So I have pre-screened tenants. I do always charge them an application fee.
As you
But
should.
I have pre-screened tenants. I actually have Section 8 marketing for me because now my phone is off the hook.
Right.
And then I could always, so let's say that, remember I gave you the range for a 3-bedroom is between 800 and 925 in the Central Texas area?
Yeah, to be clear, it was those are relatively Texas prices.
Yes.
Depending on where you are, square footage wise, it could be substantially more or even potentially less. So yeah, those are Texas.
And you can find all of this online on REIClub. They tell you can go on REIClub.com and you find out how to find rental comps or how to find fair market rents. But let's just say in a particular area, the HUD has a range of what a 3-bedroom might cost.
Right.
But let's just say in that particular area, let's use the range from 800 to 925. In that particular area, let's just say rents are 850 and your property is spick and span and beautiful. I could charge as much as 900.
Right.
Because I'm going by Section 8 vouchers. So you even could collect more rent, essentially. And then one of the last things people don't understand is Section 8 does not always pay 100% of the rent.
Right.
A lot of times, I think the minimum payment now, $50. They have to pay something. They have to have some kind of vested interest. They have to have some kind of sweat in the game. There's no more 100% Section 8. Very rare. They have to pay something, even if it's minimum $50. And they usually pay anywhere from 10 to 20% of the rent or their income. And so sometimes you're getting 2 different checks. I don't know. That's been your experience too, right?
Absolutely. And most people, I want to just bring some attention to this, is people are like, well, they're paying, they can't even afford that $50 or whatever. And like, the whole point of this call really is to help bring light to this situation, okay? In any type of real estate investing, whether you're doing subject to, lease options, anytime you have a tenant in your property, you're, as a landlord, as an investor, subject to having a bad situation happen. But the way you minimize this, and we've said this plenty of times before, is going through your due diligence, making sure you're going through your screenings. And yes, Section 8 does have a lot of, I guess you could say, checks and balances in place that help minimize that risk initially. But it doesn't mean that every single person that comes through this program is considered qualified. And that's what Camille's saying. Like when you're dealing with tenants that are, may have a tough situation, who can only afford $50 to $100, and some can't even do that. That's something that you just have to mentally be prepared for. Again, some of the houses that we have in Dallas range, I think they qualify for $1,200, and the tenant only has to pay maybe $100 of that $1,200. They can't even do that, but we're still getting $1,100 every month on the first of every month. And rather than just dealing with this, the tenant alone, you're not alone in that situation, right, Camille? You can actually work with the city housing. They can get their vouchers like revoked, right, if it's really that severe. So
I actually use Section 8 or the threat of possibly losing their voucher as a tool to make sure that my tenant pays frequently or on time or communicates with me. But also I know they do their inspections.
Right.
So I get a lot of paperwork. Hey, we're going to be out inspecting the property. Sometimes they give a week's notice. Sometimes they give a month's notice that we're going to be out on this date. And your property does need to be, every year before the voucher goes up, your property is re-inspected. If the tenant chooses to stay there, they have to re-inspect your property. It needs to be up to code. That's a whole other subject.
Right.
But based on a couple of the YouTube comments that we saw online, by the way, if you haven't liked us on our YouTube channel yet or checked us out, go right ahead.
It's going to be, I'll go ahead and give out that link, Camille. It's going to be reiclub.com/ www.youtube.com/REIclub. So super simple. Go ahead.
Yes. And one of the questions one of the comments on that video was, what happens when the tenant doesn't pay or they mess up your house?
Right.
Well, oftentimes, because they are they have themselves to stay on the program, they are incentivized to make sure they do take care of your property. Of course, you're going to have one bad apple, but it's not as the public may think. And so therefore, I've had people take care of my property better than regular paying tenants that are not Section 8.
I've had the same experience.
Yeah.
I've had the same experience. And that's why, like when we read comments, and I was going through these comments on our YouTube channel for our Section 8 video, and it seems like, we have some people who are very one-sided. And if you've really had a lot of bad experience with Section 8, I hate to say it, but you got to kind of look at yourself first, because there are plenty of landlords out there who have only, our family has worked with Section 8 tenants for close to over 20 years now. And of course, we've had homes vandalized. We've had homes in war zones. We've actually recently, in the past 2 years, had to liquidate, I think, we let one property go for 10 grand. And you hear about these properties, you're like, do people really sell these homes? Well, yeah, the house itself was only worth about 20. But when we got into that property, we were still getting, I think it was $850 for that house.
Wait, back up. You had a Section 8 in a war zone in the ghetto?
We call it the ghetto, but yeah, it's one of those.
No, you said war zone. Why was it a war zone? Because it was the ghetto.
Parking their cars on the lawns. You got the chain, or you got the bars on the windows. FYI, that's usually not a good sign if you're in a neighborhood. There's bars on your windows. Like, what are you trying to hide from?
But you make money off of it, right?
That's the crazy thing, and that's why some tenants will predominantly work in war zones. People are like, oh, I don't want that. It's too much hassle. But if you have a system in place that can accommodate these war zones, and these are the type of tenants, or here's the condition of the home I can keep it in. It doesn't have to be even half perfect. I can always have it rented.
So no stainless steel appliances.
No stainless steel appliances. It's what we call turnkey move-in ready, but not at that 100% level. You know what I mean? But that's it. Like when you have guaranteed checks coming from the government, you got to monetize. You got to adjust your standards a little bit.
Not necessarily standards. It becomes not an emotional thing. How you feel about these people and tenants, or your opinion of them, or stereotype of them, that you need to throw out the window, and you need to look at the numbers. And as a landlord, if you have expectations of keeping your property a certain way, then you need to make that known. You also need to make known that you don't really care. You'll get rid of them. You don't care about guaranteed rent. Some of them are smart. They've been on Section 8 for a while, and they know you just care about that check.
Yeah.
And there's some of them, they know you're getting that check. They'll call you for every single, oh, my light switch is wiggling. They'll call you for every single thing because they know you got that check. So you get all kinds of tenants.
Yep.
But the negative stereotypes with Section 8 are usually predominantly false. You'll find some that will fit it.
Yep.
But it's not as negative or bad or dangerous as you think. It's actually very profitable for your profit.
So we have some questions, and we're really trying to base our video also on the main questions that have been asked. I would call them FAQs of Section 8, right? And I think some people are asking, as an investor who maybe wants to start building up their cash flow, and they're dealing with, probably new builds or nicer homes. What is your opinion, Camille, on having them look into Section 8 as a potential investment option?
Okay, I'm not like you. I got no Section 8 in the war zones.
Okay.
All my Section 8s are in middle-class neighborhoods, and I screen. Most of these people are trying to take good care of their families, pull themselves up from their bootstraps, and they using Section 8 to afford a better life, to afford a better living arrangement.
Right.
And so their attitude is very appreciative in my case. So back to your main you know what? I forgot the question.
So the question was basically, for someone who's never dabbled in Section 8, who are hearing both sides, what would you say? What's the one thing you would tell them to kind of just clear the air for them and make a clear decision?
Okay. Section 8 will fill your property or give you leads. And so even if you choose not to rent a Section 8 and you just list it as availability, you would have people calling. I've actually had so many people call me after my 2 Sections 8 that I did in a small town that I bought a third property to put those people in. Because now I had a free not buyer's list, but renters list with pre-screened qualified tenants that even if they couldn't pay the rent, 90% of the rent was going to be paid by Section 8.
Right.
So I was able to pick up another little cheapy duplexes, slap some quick paint on it, and put some low-end basic
There you go.
appliances in it, and I had more cash flow. So actually, Section 8 created another additional income stream for me. So let's say you have a rehab property that you can't sell, and it's in a decent neighborhood, but also in an area that is covered or does have the Section 8 voucher program. Sign up.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Costs you nothing.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because not all neighborhoods will qualify. So it's important you have to follow up with your county, your housing departments, just to make sure that your house does qualify. Or if you're looking at an investment to rent to Section 8, to make sure that it qualifies with your county.
I shouldn't necessarily say qualify. I wouldn't use that word.
Okay.
In their area. So the way how HUD is set up and the public housing administrations, they're like a zip code map. So they have what they call a region or what's another word that they use for it? It's region or area. And they cover either a county or they cover a city or they cover a regional area. So sometimes a 3-county range or a 3-city range. So you have to see if your house falls within their geographical
I almost want to say jurisdiction, but that's
jurisdiction or what's the right word? Areas that they will lease or that their vouchers are good for.
Right.
So if you go to REIClub or even HUD.gov, they will let you know what their different public housing authorities is based on a county or state or city. So you can look that up, free online resources. You can look that up at your leisure. They will also tell you what they pay for each of those rentals in terms of the bedroom size. They pay by bedroom size.
Correct. The amount of bedrooms you have. Is it qualify for a 2-bedroom? Do you qualify for a 3-bedroom? That's usually what the landlords will ask the potential tenant.
So back to your original questions. Let's say you have a nice house, rehab, and you want to buy and hold it, or you don't want to hold the cost anymore. You want to turn it into a rental. And you say, okay, well, Section 8 might be an opportunity. You go look up and see, okay, maybe my house is going to fall under this Section 8 or this public housing area of approval. And then you just go down, or they have it online now, just 1, 2, 3, and you get listed. Right. They always have people on their waiting list. And because Section 8 housing, or because of the stigmatism of Section 8 housing, a lot of landlords choose not to go on that list. So therefore, the places get snapped up quickly because they're always looking, do I see a new property? Do I see a new property? And so your vacancies get filled quickly. So Section 8 is a good option for people who want to do buy and hold real estate in a good neighborhood.
There you go. And like Camille said, I'm glad we're bringing two perspectives into this where, we've dealt with properties in war zones. They worked out, but I will say we've liquidated most of those properties already. And it's mainly just because the surrounding neighborhood and the homes is just, it's hard to rent something that people are scared to drive through, or when they're driving through, not a single good characteristic comes to mind. So eventually you gotta, if you make your money from that deal, like I said, all the deals that we got rid of were already paid off free and clear. So we didn't lose any money on them. And we only had them for maybe, I think it was like 5 or 10 years. And we got what we needed out of it. So, it definitely opens up a lot of new doors, depending on what kind of, market you're living in. You may not always have a good neighborhood to invest in. Not saying you should go into the war zones. I think through all the experience that I've been through, I have the luxury of avoiding those. Would you agree? I don't think...
Yeah, so Section 8 has been good and profitable for you and your family?
Oh, absolutely. Honestly, it's what paid my way through college. It's the livelihood of our family. It all came through Section 8. We've actually built family relationships with some of our tenants just because they've been with us for so long. They've taken care of our property. They're not ones that take advantage of the system either. They have full-time jobs. They're really trying to make it work. Maybe they have a disability, whatever it may be. But we feel that people in the Section 8 program are people who need help, who need a little bit more TLC, right? Mm-hmm. They're not going to be the perfect situation where the moment they can't afford to pay rent, you got to slap an eviction notice. You got to be mean to them. These are people generally in difficult positions. If you did your necessary due diligence, you've done your research, their rental history. It's not when I read through these comments, Camille, of people just saying I got my crackhead people moving in here, or it's just crappy people here and there. It kind of just, I don't know. It personally rubs me the wrong way because that's not what really defines a Section 8 tenant.
What other comments are you seeing that we could address today?
That's great. Let's see
Questions.
here. Let's see. Generally, it's just a very clear like line between people who think Section 8 is bad and then people who think it's good. I'm always taking a neutral position of it's good and bad. It depends on how you approach it, right?
We have quite a bit of articles on REIClub.com that just deals with Section 8 and landlording, and you could always find some more information on there. But one of the things that was shocking to me as a Section 8 landlord, I had my very first Section 8 property. Man, I always talking about the very first, but that's when you did aha. And about 4 months in, she had to pay $50 a month, and the rent was $800.
Mm-hmm.
And then she wasn't working. She started working, and 4 months later, I got this note from the housing authority, and it's called change of rent payment or something. It's somewhere on my desk here. Don't laugh at my desk, guys. Okay, I'm not a secretary. I'm a real estate investor. Okay, but it's somewhere here. But it's a change of rent, and it says now based on her income, we will send you $650 a month. And she would send me $100. The rent was $800. She would send me the balance.
By $150, yep.
Yes. She only had that job for 2 months. Then I got another notice. Now we will pay $700, $702, and she would pay $98.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a little bit of paperwork that you need to follow up. So if you have someone, your accountant, or if you have someone managing your property, of course, the how you get the rent may fluctuate. How much of the rent you get will always remain the same, but who will
gives
pay
you the money?
What? Yes.
Right. Who you're getting the money from, or the amount coming from each person may be different, but the total amount should be always the same.
Yes.
Let me ask you this then, Camille. What are your opinions of people who only have to pay $50 or only $100 and are not able to? Like, what are your experiences with those type of situations?
Before Section 8, I didn't think very highly of those tenants. I was like, what? They can't pay $50? But as I started doing real estate investing more, one of our things, me and my husband, was we wanted to change lives through real estate.
Right.
And so we wanted to create better housing opportunities in small, mid-sized to small rural areas. And so we'll put rehab a nice fancy house and then put it up for sale or rent. Mm-hmm. And as I got to learn and really understand some of those Section 8 tenants, some of them just had babies. Some of them was going through school. Some of them simply was working 2-3 jobs, but making minimum wage.
Which we know is really difficult to survive.
Yes.
Right.
And and they got on this voucher program, which they had to qualify and do an extensive background check. And the voucher program is really helping them have a more balanced life.
Right.
And so that mother could be home instead of working 3 jobs. She could be home for her kids when they come home from school because she only worked 1 job because she had help. So I actually had more respect because I thought that they were being very smart in signing up for the Section 8. I didn't necessarily have lazy tenants, except one. I had one lazy tenant.
The bad apple.
Because she was milking the system.
Yeah.
She would pay her rent because you see the date on the money order. If rent is due the 3rd for the latest, she'll postmark it the 3rd, buy the money order the 3rd. By the time I get it, it's the 5th. And she would fight me and say, well, I postmark it on time.
Oh, yeah.
So there are a few, like I said, every 1 out of 10 or 2 out of 10, you run across those who game the system, but majority of them are good, hardworking Americans that are just making minimum wage.
So, of course, implementing or when you put your property into the system, whether it's in a middle class, decent neighborhood to, maybe a little bit less than that, you're going to still get a wide range of tenants, correct?
Yes.
So with that being said, you say 1 out of 10. Do you feel that a home in a nicer area is going to get better tenants, or you're going to get the same kind of tenants or does it all come down to the investor on who they decide to rent to?
It's your decision. It's the investor who they decide to rent to. I tend to get, one of the comments you said was a crackhead in the ghetto. Well, guess what?
Yeah.
Likely there are other crackheads in the ghetto. Crackheads go where crackheads go. They're not gonna go to the nice middle class.
That's very interesting logic, Camille. That makes sense.
So they're gonna go where the crack is.
So ideally,
you want to rent to tenants, you don't buy crack infested property.
Right. But ideally, so my assumption would be that, in a nicer area, you're going to get better quality Section 8 tenants?
Yes.
Okay.
Because those are usually the progressive one. They want better for their kids. They want more for themselves. They don't want to be in the war zone or the ghetto. They don't want the easy out. And therefore, those are the smart ones. They know the true value of their voucher. They know what to look for. And they respect your property because they want to stay on the program and they want to keep there. And housing for the average American is, and some average Americans in some area, the cost of housing is outpacing their wages. So Section 8 is just a help.
If we just do some simple math, right? What are they, like the average household income right now, I think for both dual income, I think is just around, I think like 45, 50,000, right?
Okay.
And that's between two people, right? That's between two people. And if you say your rent is $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. That's just for for two people, assuming they have kids. But I would assume that most people that are in Section 8 are not married, correct?
I've had married Section 8s. I had one guy, he was disabled.
Oh, okay.
And one lady was working. She was working at the Shell gas station. And she was working at the Shell gas station because she had to come home. She had to drive him everywhere, so she needed flexibility. Because she couldn't work a traditional job or a job far away. So with his disabled income and her gas station income, they really couldn't afford decent housing. So you're actually, as investors, you are a savior to them. When you provide good, decent housing in better neighborhoods and you allow for Section 8, it's a win-win.
It truly is. It truly is. Like you say, like what did you say your longest ongoing tenant is in Section 8?
5 to 7 years.
Right. And ours is just around 11 years. And she's a lovely old lady. And it really comes down, I guess, I think we just got to keep emphasizing that point. If you're out there, you have such a negative opinion of Section 8, really go through that due diligence process again and kind of figure out maybe just kind of retroactively look at the deals that you may have already done Section 8 where you're like, this was just miserable, and kind of see what you could have done better in that circumstance. I feel like there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to owning, when it comes to renting. People in these situations who are in Section 8 maybe are there for a specific reason. And if you kind of just let them, do their own thing all the time without that necessary support there, you're going to find yourselves in these kind of, I don't know what the right word to use here is, but you're going to find yourself in these difficult situations to get out of more often than not. So, with that being said, Camille, I was curious, what would you say, I know we're coming on to the half-hour mark, and I just want to make sure we cover all our points.
We've been talking that long already. We're having such a good time.
I know. I'm telling you guys, like, we have such a good time here at REIClub. We really love talking about real estate and sharing whatever we know with y'all, so you guys don't make the same mistakes as us, and you can really kind of thrive quickly. But with that being said, Camille, what would you say is like what are 3 things that you, or maybe even top 2 things that you do to really ensure that you're not going to be stuck in a difficult situation with a Section 8 tenant?
Okay, now here's where I discriminate. I don't take, so I ask them.
I appreciate your honesty. I appreciate it.
I don't take anyone with a felony criminal record.
That is a good point. Yep.
That is one of my, if I don't order my own, I ask them to share, did they pass a background check? Can they be hired at the gas station or the bank? Sometimes they share me a copy, sometimes they don't. So if they don't trust them handling the money, I don't want them living in my property if they have a drug conviction or anything like that. So I do discriminate based on criminal history.
Okay.
The second thing that I also do, I ask questions like, have they rented before on the Section 8 program? If they rented before and they're looking to upgrade their property, I would take them over somebody who's new. Because they know about the inspections. They know about reporting of the income. They've been part of the system for some time.
Right.
So those are my top two things that I look for, or that's my main due diligence per se. And actually, one of the guys in one of the videos, you did a video. If you don't know, we have a video section on REI.com videos, and there's a section there for landlord and rental properties.
Right.
And you did a video how to screen tenants. You guys should check that video out. Same thing. Even though there's Section 8, you still want to do your due diligence. And I think it was like 5-step or 10 steps to screen. It was a really good video. Check us out, rei.com/videos.
That's right. REIClub.com/videos. We post all our videos that we have on YouTube onto our website as well. Definitely check them out. We have a lot of great content there, like our screening videos, how to pick your tenants, how to pick your fair market values. We try to cover the most basic things to kind of get you off the ground. Tons of great content there. Thank you, Camille, for bringing that up.
What about you? What do you use? Oh, your mom.
One of the questions I asked before is, first of all, yes, are they new to the Section 8 program? But I think what I've learned recently, probably in just the past 2 years alone, is renting to someone who's never lived in a home before. The responsibilities of living in an apartment and living in a home, there are a lot of differences.
Great point.
Right. So like at an apartment, you got management. They're going to be taking care of your, landscaping. They're going to take care of you. You don't have to deal with any of that stuff. Trash, you got someone else throwing the trash out for you. It's all almost 50% hands off. When you own a home, they have to maintain the yard. They have to change out the air filters. They got to make sure they're not running your air conditioning 24/7 at 65 degrees. You know what I mean? Like, these are costs that people who have never owned a property, they don't think about. So I like to know if they've ever rented in a house before, and then I will always follow up with their, I always like going through I always go realtors as well. I'm a busy man, but I like to make sure they have a good rental history. Criminal background checks is a must. Credit checks, it's hit or miss for me. It's more about job security. How long have they been at their current job for?
Well,
right?
Actually, part of the credit check reports now include job history. And so just so you know,
okay,
include address, how long they've been in the address before, as well as their job history.
Because I'm going through a tenant screening process right now. I'm actually about to evict a tenant of mine who is not in Section 8. He's probably worse than some people in Section 8 that I have to get rid of now. So there's a testament to that. And I had to screen like 10 tenants within the week. It's a great market here in Austin, by the way. It's super easy to find a tenant. But I had to do background checks, credit history, then like the boyfriends didn't want the girlfriend. Like, this hasn't done anything to do Section 8, but I'm just saying these aren't Section 8 tenants, and I'm going through an extensive screening process. When they are in Section 8, I'm even doing it even more so, regardless of what the county has on record for them. It's just because it just gives you a peace of mind. You know that if you're personally comfortable with it and not trusting on what's on paper, then you have a better idea of how to manage these tenants over the next year. So for me, those are really my top two things, which is, do they live in a house or live in an apartment before? And of course, like you said too, this is their first time in the program, and how secure is their current income? Because those are really the two main things that that really apply to a Section 8, right? They got to cover the rent, and how good of a tenant are they? Like how well they treat their home previously. If they cover those 2 points, everything else in their life, I really don't really care. It's none of my business, right?
Well, for those listening on iTunes podcast, what would you tell them if they skip to the end? What would you tell them? Investing in Section 8 is good or bad for investors?
Great question. If you're here just tuning in now, one sentence I would say is, man, that's a loaded question, Camille. Overall, I'm going to say, how about this? I'll give you my personal experience. I would say yes to Section 8, but personally for me and what my investment goals are, I personally avoid it. I've dealt with it for a long
What?
I know. This is crazy.
You just dropped the bombshell. Boom.
I know. I dropped the bomb.
Boom.
I know. I'm dropping the mic. I've had people even ask, do you rent a Section 8? It's just because I come from a background where we don't really do everything by the book. In that sense, what I mean by that is we're very flexible with our tenants. We're very flexible with our real estate. We're really flexible with our tenants. We don't have a management company. Right. So it's not like they miss a payment, they're going to get a letter. We work really closely with our tenants. Like I said, we've made friends with them. And when you do that, you get to really know how this process works on a tenant level. Because dealing with housing is a completely different animal when you're dealing with a different tenant and dealing with a difficult housing department. That right there is a huge turnoff to me. I like to be in control of my own situation. By when you deal with tenants, you have a lot of outside factors in their own life. You have to deal with the housing department. It's just I didn't ever really have a great experience with it, even though I grew up in it. So I would say for investors who out there who need some good cash flow, who have maybe having a hard time, selling their properties, then yeah, this may be a good option for you. But if you're going into it full force, you already know what you're getting into, yeah, this is another good option for you. But if you're looking to avoid headaches and not have to jump through a lot of hoops, then I would say avoid Section 8 altogether. But that's just me. Camille's probably going to say something different. It's exactly why I have her on here. So we have
REIClub investors. That is Frank, like he said, Frank's opinion.
That's my opinion. My
opinion is 180 degrees from him, just for the record. If you decide to wholesale a property, then of course we're not even talking about Section 8. If you decide to flip or rehab a property and it doesn't sell, Section 8 is a great outcome. If you're a landlord and you want to buy and hold, it's perfect. To go what Frank said, I had one property that was on the corner and it would get crosswinds and what do you call those? The screens would blow off. And so one day the lady did a surprise inspection, not for me, but for the tenant. And I got a letter saying it's a safety hazard. You need to have screens on the windows at all times. But it was a wind tunnel. No matter, I could nail the screen down and it would still somehow blow off. So you got little nuances like that. But on all my Section 8 properties, set it and forget it. Even if I get 90% of my rents paid on the first, on time, I have no issues.
Are you using a management company, Camille?
I am a management company.
So there you go.
Actually, I never tell the Section 8 tenants that I own it. I just say I'm the manager.
There you go. I do the same thing. I'm just like, every letter I sign, I'll just say property management on behalf of, and then just, you're the middleman, so they don't get really mad at you the entire time. They get mad at whoever's above you, which they don't know is you.
Yeah.
It really does help your situation. I'm glad you did touch up on that.
But, Frank, I think these REIClub investors got to go find some good deals and got to go invest. We've been keeping them too long.
Absolutely. So I think we covered a lot of good points today, Camille. I'm really glad hopefully we're able to provide two perspectives on this topic. I would just like to say, hopefully we did clear the air a bit. I know that we had some aggressive comments on our YouTube video, and I can only imagine, whether they are or not investors, hopefully they've had the experience of dealing with tenants in order to say these things. But overall, to our REIClub investors, I'd say, we really appreciate you guys being here, and I hope you guys have a better understanding of what Section 8 is and whether it's a good fit for you. Again, don't take all my word for it. Take Camille's word. Just see how it applies to your current investing scenario, where your capital is, how strong you are as an investor. Because this is just honestly, after all of that said and done, this is just another investment strategy that you can have in your back pocket. And I know we listed a few things that help you, will make it even a better reason to go into Section 8, depending on your current, I guess, kind of properties you guys have right now in your inventory. So, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring this call to a conclusion. We really did hope you guys appreciated the information. If you guys are watching this through our YouTube channel, be sure to like the video, leave comments, let us know what you thought about it, which side you're on and, which side you're not on. I'm very curious to see, 4 years from that last video, what people's are and where people's opinions are of Section 8. And if you're watching through iTunes, thank you so much for your support. We love having you here. But do us a huge favor. You can only give us 5 stars. That's all we're going to accept. It really does help us out in our rankings and allows us to keep putting out this really good content for you guys week after week. I know that Camille loves being on these calls with me. I really appreciate her time. I know that her and I are both working on some potential external interviews with some other real estate experts around the nation that we're going to be bringing you here, covering a wide variety of topics on real estate. And we really do hope you guys enjoy it. Be sure, again, if you're on YouTube or our iTunes and you're able to leave comments, let us know what you would like to see in the future, what you did like, what you didn't like. We want to make sure that you guys enjoy and keep coming back to our podcast. We love the support. With that, is there anything you'd like to conclude our call with, Camille?
No, I'm still shocked over you said what you said.
I know. And even still, like we still rent the Section 8. Like our family business is still on that, and I'm still, writing the letters. I'm still helping manage it. It's just, I don't know. Maybe this current eviction I'm dealing with, who's not Section 8, might bring me right back into it, because it's almost as bad when I was dealing with the worst of the Section 8. But again, like we said, it's about who you're dealing with, not just because they're Section 8. It doesn't mean anything, I don't think. So
Hey guys, if you see this video on Facebook, get on Frank, okay?
please do. Please get on to me. I would love to hear your feedback.
Facebook/REIclub. Get on
Thank you so
Frank.
much. Oh, and one more thing before we conclude, to stay in tune with what's going on with REIclub and REIclub like newsletter type things, go to REIclub.com/update. Again, that's REIclub.com/update. And when you sign up for our newsletter, it's not just you get that monthly newsletter, you also get a lot of cool bonuses, as well as getting access to a ton of free resources, articles, videos. We also have a blog, a lot of contributors. Tons and tons of massive content for you to really get your business going.
And it's all free.
All free. Again, check that out at REIclub.com/update. Sign up so we can keep you up to date with what is going on in real estate. So with that, we're going to conclude our podcast number 2. Camille, thank you. And we look forward to talk to you guys next time. Good investing. Take care and bye-bye.